I made a video 8 months ago absolutely dissing on the B&M surf coaster and all it had to offer. It was a pretty funny video and I enjoyed making it, so I saw no problem with it. But since then, Pipeline has opened up to rave reviews, and I now feel obligated to make a follow-up video. Everyone's complaint with that video was I haven't rode the coaster yet, so how can I judge it? And while I have not been to Florida since then, the editor of this channel, Flashwing, has. You may have seen him in our GeoGuessr videos or our vlogs if you are a close follower of the channel, but for most of you, it may be something new to hear his voice. I will continue to introduce the video and I will close the video, but Flashing will be scripting, commentating, and editing a majority of this video, so props to him.
Hell yeah.
Now before we let the editor Flashwing get physical words out, he probably said something through the art of editing already, let's talk about why I hated the surf coaster and called it B&M's first mistake. Well, first of all, it's not B&M's first mistake. B&M has made a lot of errors like any other manufacturer. I just thought it would be their first model to really flop. A lot of points in the video about this model selling might still stand still, though after seeing Pipeline be a huge success, I feel that more of these will sell. I can see one of these coming to San Diego in the next 5 years, as well as to a park like Dollywood. However, I cannot guarantee the future of this model, and just because a coaster is good doesn't mean it will sell. Look at the sit down as an example. My other point with this surf coaster that I made was, I hate just standing on coasters in general, and I have to make my amends with the standing coaster now. When I came off Riddler's Revenge, I absolutely hated the standing coaster and everything it had to offer. I thought there's no way a coaster like this could ever suit someone like me. It was too rough, and the intense forces being presented while standing made it uncomfortable. Later trips to Magic Mountain really didn't help the case either. It reinforced my idea of hating standing coasters. As soon as the coaster rolled over the top of the lift hill, I wanted to get off. This all changed when I rode a different stand-up coaster that is notoriously worse than Riddler's Revenge, Green Lantern. For some reason, on that day at Great Adventure, I found it to be the most enjoyable coaster ever. I loved the positive G's and how crazy intense it was. I did wish it was a little bit smoother, but there was still no headbanging. Now, I haven't been able to re-ride Riddlers because the last time I went to Magic Mountain it was closed, but still, I think the standing coaster is a good concept that could be improved upon, which means I should give Pipeline a chance. Now, with all the positive reviews comes a little bit of criticism. I have no right to say this, so just completely ignore me if you want. The rave review will come in a hot minute, but I have heard that the airtime could get uncomfortable when marathoning this coaster. Floating up into the restraint digs into your collarbone and shoulder area, and while this may not hurt on the first ride, it can start to get irritating on the third or fourth. Now, I touched upon this concept in my video. Flashing responded with the airtime is not going to be strong enough to hurt, and the result was kind of in the middle ground. The airtime doesn't hurt, at least the first time, but it can hurt if you continue to ride it. So my point still kind of stands, and Flashwing's point still stands, because it does give you enough airtime to somewhat hurt, but not enough to actually hurt. The last thing I'm going to say before I hand it off to Flashwing is that this coaster can suck for tall people. He might touch on that in his review because he is 6'3", but the whole thing with airtime and restraints is negatively implemented for tall people. You don't get much of that standing airtime because you're so tall, and it also can hurt a little bit more. But take that with a grain of salt and listen for it in the next 4 or 5 minutes of Flashwing's review. That's all what I have to say. Pipeline is probably good. I'll go out and ride it myself one day, and now that I said that, r/rollercoasterjerk might finally shut up. Or not, I don't really care. So here's Flashing with the rest of the video. Also, Pipeline did a silly funny and bump trains, hehe.
Pipeline is easily the most surprising coaster at SeaWorld Orlando. This coaster is right at the front of the park and is easily visible from the parking lot. The color scheme is light blue track and white supports, which feel very similar to the rides at SeaWorld San Diego. The trains are modeled after surfboards, with a yellow base and orange highlights that resemble other rides in the park. It looks like the train is surfing along the coaster.
Oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no, man. What the f***? Get your ass.
But anyways, the ride has some minimal theming outside and in the station. The gift shop is lightly themed. There is sand and surfboards to line the queue, and the station has coolers for storage bins once you reach the station. The theming is limited, but what is there is pretty decent. Emperor at my home park could learn a thing or two, or literally anything, like come on SeaWorld, this is just lazy. After your mostly unshaded queue line, you board your trains. These trains have vest restraints, which feel comfortable except when you get airtime. Getting pushed up into the restraints feels uncomfortable after re-rides, especially if you are tall. You can ease some of the pain by pushing the vest out, but it makes the forces feel very weird in my experience, so I just dealt with the pain. When you board, you will also notice the moving seats. These seats move up and down during the ride, but don't go any further down than the position you leave the station. The ride experience, because of these seats, is drastically different depending on your height. The shorter you are, the better. I'm 6'3", so for my first ride I only rose a couple of inches. But every other ride I bend my knees to as low as the restraint can go, and let me tell you, the airtime hits. So try to do that, but you didn't hear that from me because operators will yell at you to stand up. But let's be honest, we'll do anything for better airtime. The ride moves out of the station and goes into an LSM launch. This launch isn't super forceful but has decent acceleration. The airtime hill during the launch is insane though. You get a surprisingly sustained burst of ejector airtime that launches you to the top of your restraint. The airtime on this ride is very different from every other roller coaster, at least the ones I have ridden. On the rides, I locked my seat into the lowest position. It felt like the seat was going to fly off the train. It's bizarre, but feels amazing. You then go up into an overbank that stalls a bit at the top, which causes the seat to slide out, giving some very strange sideways airtime. You then go over a twisted airtime hill, which is easily the most sustained airtime on the ride. Your seat launches and stays up for the entire hill. This is probably the best element of the ride because of how sustained it is. You then navigate a forceless corkscrew. This element would normally be terrible, but the train stalls in the second half of the inversion, which causes your seat to fall. This is better than every moment of hang time I've been on, even full throttle loop. It caught me off guard every time I rode, and it was easily the most surprising element of the ride. You then rise up and twist down into a turn. This gives more fantastic sustained airtime in the front and less sustained and weaker airtime in the back. There is also a trim that you can't really feel in the front, but you definitely feel in the back. You then go through a turn which doesn't really do much, and then another small airtime hill. This gives some more great sustained airtime for the entire train. There's a weak with weak positives, a rapid twist that gives a surprising pop of airtime, and another weak helix into the brake run. Just some final notes on pipeline. This coaster does have a noticeable shake to it. Because you're in a stand position, you are much further away from the track than on a sit-down train, so every imperfection in the track is magnified. The track is probably smooth. Almost all new age B&Ms are like that. But since you are in a stand-up, there is a shake. It's similar to other B&M stand-ups, maybe a bit smoother than them, but since you have vest restraints, there's no head banging. It's just kind of there. Also, unlike the old stand-up coasters, you never hit the bar in between your legs. This ride has weak positive Gs compared to the old stand-ups, which will murder you with positives. You'll never hit the bar even if you were crouching like I did. So dudes, there is absolutely nothing to worry about down there on this ride. Overall, Pipeline exceeded every expectation I had for it. The airtime moments are truly unique and spectacular. The ride has a great length and fun elements. This is probably going to be known as the best stand coaster in the world and is definitely the most fun ride at SeaWorld. And I really hope there is more of this model built in the future. Now for how it ranks in the park. Mako and Icebreaker definitely beat Pipeline for me. They have the best floater and ejector airtime in the park respectively, especially since Icebreaker got rid of its comfort colors. Yet again, my home park could learn a thing or two from SeaWorld Orlando. I think Manta beats Pipeline as well, but that could change since I have a soft spot for flyers. But I do like Pipeline more than Kraken, their floorless coaster, so fourth in the park for me. With a lineup as amazing as this, getting fourth is still very good, and I imagine most of you will rank Pipeline even higher. I would not call Pipeline elite, but it's a very fun and re-rideable coaster that everyone will enjoy. This ride is like nothing else that exists in the world today. It is the best stand-up coaster, and I am excited to see many more pop up in parks around the world.
And that's what Flatstringer said about the coaster, and I'm going to take his word for it. Like I said, I'll get out and ride this and make up my opinion one day, but for now I can confidently say, Pipeline the Surf Coaster is not a mistake. That's all for today's video, guys. As always, make sure to like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.